Hello everyone and welcome to another Star Wars figure review. We're going to wrap up the original trilogy with this next video as we're going to take a look at a character from episode 6, Return of the Jedi. You may remember in my last couple of videos I gave you a look at previous figures from the Saga Legends line. In my first of these reviews I gave you a look at Luke Skywalker from A New Hope. My last review looked at Han Solo from Empire Strikes Back. And again in this review we're going to take a look at none other than the Baron of Smooth himself, Lando Calrissian, in Skiff disguise from Return of the Jedi. Now I've got to say I'm actually really impressed with this figure for the most part. He does have one major design flaw which really shouldn't be apparent in 2015, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit, but for the most part this is a really nice figure. If you're looking to complete your Jabba's Palace display with a really cool version of Lando in his Skiff disguise, then this is definitely the way to go. A previous rendition, as it were, of Lando was released in the Vintage Collection as part of the Blu-ray deleted scene wave. You may remember that particular figure came with the Sandstorm outfit and all that sort of stuff, again from those deleted scenes that were included on the Blu-ray. But for the most part that particular figure was primarily based on Lando's appearance as a Skiff guard in Jabba's Palace. So that was really technically the last version that we saw of Lando in his Skiff guard disguise. Once again, that was 5 years ago as part of the Vintage Collection, so he is going to be a tricky figure to track down if you want the definitive version. But again, as a completion for a display, this is the way to go, especially for the price. So again, I'll cover all those bases in just a little bit. Before we do, we are going to take a look at the packaging that this guy comes in. And once again we have the standard 2015 Saga Legends line look to this packaging. At the top of the card we have the Disney logo and the Star Wars logo, and then in background there we do have the Star Wars Rebels Stormtrooper graphic. Just below that we have Lando Calrissian from the movie, and on the back we have a still image from the film as well. As you can see, Lando there in discussion with Princess Leia prior to the rescue of his rebel friends. Just below that we have some other figures available in this wave. Once again these have been reviewed on the channel. Luke Skywalker from A New Hope and Han Solo from The Empire Strikes Back. Again, those are featured as part of my Saga Legends and Mission Series playlist, which is again located on my channel, so feel free to check those out if you haven't already seen them. So that is the packaging that this guy comes in. Once again, if you want to add this particular figure or any of the rest of the wave to your collection, then do feel free to check out the link in the video description. That will take you to staractionfigures.co.uk, and at the time of filming this review, all this wave is completely in stock. So you can pick up Luke, you can pick up Han, and you can pick up Lando as well. And you can also grab some revisions from previous waves. So if you had any difficulty finding the Inquisitor, Ezra Bridger, or the Stormtrooper from Star Wars Rebels, Star Action Figures is the place to get them, and once again there is a link in the video description where you can purchase those and many other cool Star Wars collectibles. So, onto this figure. Here he is. As I mentioned at the beginning of the review, this isn't actually a bad figure. If you're looking to complete your Jabba's Palace display, again, for the money, this is definitely the way to go. If you want to have this guy just standing at attention behind Jabba, awaiting the arrival of Luke and Chewie and Leia, then this is definitely a figure that you want to look at picking up. For the most part, Lando does just stand at attention during those scenes in Jabba's Palace. It's only once we get to the Pit of Carkoon that Lando really starts to get his hands dirty. So, articulation aside, this is actually a solid figure. Although again, if you're looking to recreate those scenes from the Sarlacc Pit, then the Vintage Collection release is probably the one that you want to pick up. However, due to it being released again around 5 years ago, and it was a pretty hard figure to come by when it was first released, you're going to pay a little bit more than you would for that figure than you would for this one. Again, Saga Legends will set you back around $6.99, so for the price you really can't argue, especially with this guy, for the purposes that I picked him up for at least. So with regards to the rest of the figure, as I mentioned, articulation aside, he is pretty good. We'll knock the elephant out of the room first and we'll talk about articulation. Obviously he does only have the typical Saga Legends 5 points, so we have a swivel at the neck, we have swivels at the shoulders and swivels at the hips. One thing to point out about this figure is the fact that the colours are very, very nice on this guy. If you did pick up the Vintage Collection release, then you may have thought, like me, that the colours were a little bit dark and a little bit off. There was just something about them that didn't quite feel how they looked in the movie, whereas this one really does capture the overall look, and I think, in my opinion at least, this one is far more accurate. He does come included with an accessory, and in this case it's the sort of Skiff guard force pike or staff, depending on what you want to call that. Now, one thing I really like about this accessory is the fact that it's made of a really stiff and sturdy plastic. Over the years, Skiff guards have always been included with really flimsy and very, very thin Skiff pikes or staffs, again, whatever you want to call those. So it's really nice to see the quality increase, at least in the weapon with this figure. The sculpt is really good. Again, the quality of the plastic is very well done as well. So all in all, no complaints with the accessory. Now, one other accessory that this figure should have included is a helmet. But for whatever reason, and this brings me to the major issue that this figure has, is the fact that for whatever reason, Hasbro decided to make this helmet non-removable. Now again, like with the inadequate helmet that we received with the Saga Legends Luke Skywalker figure that I previously gave you a look at, this sort of thing shouldn't be happening in 2015. It says a lot when the 1983 version of this figure from Kenner even featured a removable helmet, and that was back in the days when technology was much more primitive than it is now. So why the hell, in 2015, are we getting figures such as this one at least? Stormtroopers and what have you can understand, but with this guy, no removable helmet it's a baffling decision, and it begs the question why that decision was made. One of the things that I really would have liked to have asked Hasbro had I been at Star Wars Celebration recently was, why did you make this Saga Legends Lando helmet non-removable? It really doesn't make sense, especially when you can so clearly and evidently see Lando's face underneath. Now, don't get me wrong, the helmet is sculpted really, really well. There's not quite as much detail captured in the mask part of the helmet that I would have liked, but again, it's a budget figure, so you can sort of look past that. But the non-removable aspect of this is really, really mind-baffling, really. I don't know, it seems ridiculous to me, but maybe I'm just being picky. As you can see, however, you can see Lando's face underneath the mask, although obviously due to it being non-removable, it is kind of hard to tell whether the likeness is accurate or not. From what I can see, it looks like Lando, but it's hard to tell 100% whether or not it's a decent head sculpt. So, with that said, it loses a few points, but again, for display purposes, it meets all the criteria. If you want to have this guy, again, standing alongside the rest of the Skiff guards or blending in amongst some of Jabba's goons, then it's not a bad figure to pick up, again, especially for the price. $5.99 these days doesn't get you a whole lot, but in the current economy, $5.99 isn't actually a bad price. So for that reason alone, I'd recommend picking it up, but if you have easy access or you've already purchased the Vintage Collection Blu-ray deleted scene release, cracky, that's a mouthful, then I wouldn't recommend picking up this figure because the previous version is far superior. The only drawback to the vintage version is the fact that he's a little bit shorter than this figure, but I can throw a little height to the wind in exchange for tons more accessories and a removable helmet. So yeah, it depends whether you want to splash the cash on a more expensive figure or whether you just want a basic character to complete your display. So with that said, that is going to wrap up this review on Lando Calrissian from the Saga Legends line from Hasbro, and that's going to conclude my recent series of Saga Legends reviews. Once again, we've sort of completed the saga in many ways, or at least the original trilogy with these last few videos, and I hope you've enjoyed having a look at them. Once again, there's a link in the video description to purchase all of the figures that have just been reviewed, and again, I hope you've enjoyed having a look at these guys. I'll be back to give you a look at a very cool Star Wars Rebels Lego set in my next review, and then we'll be moving on to the Black Series 6-inch line, and there's some really cool figures from that I can't wait to share with you. So, until next time, as always guys, thank you for watching, keep collecting, and may the Force be with you.